Hello, DM Geezer Jim back to continue along with our RTFM audiobook mode for the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. Continuing along in Chapter 4 here, making some progress. Almost done with Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is creating adventures. This is taking what we talked about in Chapter 1 as far as planning, being aware of our people and our groups and making adventures that everyone enjoys. Chapter 2, understanding the terms and concepts. Chapter 3, all of the tools that we're using to build what we are now creating in Chapter 4, creating adventures. So, the next section we are going into in our series is Bring It to an End. As usual, I'll do some reading. We'll read through the section. I'll save any commentary for the last section, so if you're here for the audiobook mode, listen to what we got for the first couple minutes, and then push that pause button and go to the next episode. If you want to hear my comments, hang out for the whole video. But first and foremost, thanks for your time. Let's get to it. Bring it to an end. The climatic ending of an adventurer fulfills the promise of all that came before. The best climax is one that the players see coming, so if a dragon is the mastermind behind all the nefarious activity happening in an adventure, having the dragon's minions mention the nature of their boss sets up the coming climatic encounter. Although the climax must hinge on the successes and failures of the characters up to that moment, the adventure climax table can provide suggestions to help you shape the end of your adventure. This is a D10 table, and it's got some climatic battles, the summation of our adventure, some ideas as it were here listed. Obviously, if you're just random rolling, you're random rolling. It is what it is. But hopefully it serves as some inspiration, some ideas for you. A couple examples. If you were to roll a 2, the adventurers chase a villain while dodging obstacles designed to thwart them, leading to a final confrontation in the villain's refuge. Or the adventurers race to a site where the villain is bringing a master plan to its conclusion, arriving just as the plan is about to be completed. Talked about like stopping a ritual in the draw in the players section, the layout, the premise section. A portal opens to another plane of existence. Creatures on the other side spill out, forcing the adventurers to close the portal while dealing with the villain at the same time. Or the dungeon begins to collapse while the villain attempts to escape in the chaos. So these are ideas for your climatic final battle, as it were. The next section is denouement. In most stories, there's a period after the climax in which loose plot threads are tied up and everything is explained. An adventure might also include this kind of denouement, time to discover what treasure is in the dragon's hoard, an award ceremony where the queen gives medals to the victorious heroes, or even a time to mourn adventuring companions who didn't survive the battle. The denouement can also be an opportunity for the players to identify loose threads that haven't been tied up, threads that can then lead them to the next adventure. The episodes and serials section in Chapter 5 offers suggestions for weaving these connecting threads when we start building campaigns. That's really all they gave us for bringing an adventure to an end. Let's go ahead and do adventure rewards as well, because it's kind of part of the same section here. For some characters, the prospect of a material reward is their primary reason for going on adventures. For others, it's a welcome added benefit to pursuing their other goals. Chapter 7 describes different kinds of treasures, but also see marks of prestige in Chapter 3 for other rewards you might use. The following section describes how treasure is typically dispersed in an adventure. Individual treasure. Characters might find small amounts of treasure in the pockets, pouches, or personal stashes of individual monsters. Even if a monster doesn't intentionally collect treasure, characters might find scattered coins and other monetary treasure left behind the monster's previous victims. You can use the random individual treasure table below to determine how much treasure a single monster has based on its challenge rating. This table includes the average total in parentheses, which you can use instead of rolling. To determine the total amount of treasure for a group of similar creatures, you can roll once and multiply the total by the number of creatures in the group. Okay, random individual treasure table. Left column is CR, the right column is the treasure. We've got 4 different categories, as typically we do. CR 0 through 4, we're going to give you 3d6 gold pieces. CRs 5 through 10 could carry 2d8 times 10 with an average of 90 gold pieces each. 11s through 16 would be carrying 2d10 times 10 platinum, up to 100 platinum pieces. And 17 up would have 2d8 times 100 in platinum, an average of 900 plat. I'll save comments. Treasure hoards. Adventurers sometimes discover large caches of treasure, the accumulated wealth of a large group of creatures, or the belongings of a single powerful creature that hoards valuables. The random treasure hoard table can help you determine such a cache, your choice. When determining the contents of a hoard belonging to one monster, use the row for that monster's challenge rating. When the hoard belongs to a large group of monsters, use the CR of the monster that leads the group. Each row indicates the average results for monetary treasure, which you can use instead of rolling. To create a hoard for a monster that is particularly fond of amassing treasure, such as a dragon, you can roll twice on the table or roll once and double the total. As a rough benchmark, aim to roll on the random treasure hoard table about once per game session. Use the guidelines in Chapter 7 to determine which magic items are in the hoard. See awarding magic items and random magic items in that same chapter. So for a random treasure hoard, CRs 0 through 4 could be 2d4 times 100 with an average gold piece value of 500 and 1d4 minus 1 magic items. 5 through 10 can have 8d10 times 100, an average of 4,400 gold pieces with 1 die 3 magic items. 11 through 16 can have 8d8 times 10,000 gold, 36,000 total, with 1d4 magic items. And the 17th and above bracket would have 6d10 times 10,000 gold, up to 330,000 gold pieces and 1d6 magic items. Quest rewards. Sometimes characters are paid for completing a quest. To determine a suitable quest reward, roll once on the random treasure hoard table using the character's level for the CR. Monster treasure preference. The monster manual gives treasure preferences for monsters in that book. These preferences are categorized as follows. The monster has a treasure hoard, the contents of which you can determine by rolling on the random treasure hoard table. Monetary treasure can take the forms of coins, trade bars, trade goods, gems, or art objects, all described in Chapter 7. Magic items can belong to any treasure theme or category. See treasure themes and magic item categories in Chapter 7. Individual treasures. The monster doesn't have a treasure hoard, however, it might have monetary treasure, which you can determine by rolling on the random individual treasure table. The treasure takes the form of coins, trade bars, trade goods, gems, or art objects, as described in Chapter 7. And last is treasure themes, arcana, armaments, implements, or relics. The monster has a treasure hoard skewered towards a particular theme. See treasure themes in Chapter 7. You can also determine the size of the hoard by rolling on the random treasure hoard table. If the hoard contains magic items, use the guidelines and tables in Chapter 7 to determine each one. So that's the section on bringing it to an end, and I included adventure rewards about it. Not a ton of stuff here. The main thing that I would say is this section is giving you, this is my comments here, ideas for a big climatic battle, the big set piece, the end of our adventure. Maybe not the end of your campaign, but the end of this particular adventure that we've been building. Remember, we laid out the premise. Why are we going on this adventure? What is the goal for this particular adventure? How did we draw the players into our adventure? How did we plan the encounters that supported the first two things? And this section is bringing it to an end, making sure that your ending encounter is supporting a supporting climax for the ideas that we've come up to with so far in Chapter 4. The denouement section is, yes, there's going to be some loose ends. There's going to be some threads. These could lead to the next adventure. They could lead to some side quests. Or they could just be the realization of the consequences for your players choosing to go one way or another. Sometimes knowing that they solved this problem because they went west, but the problem to the east got worse, reinforces their agency in the world. It's not about failing. It's about them understanding that it's a big, living, breathing world, and they can't fix everything all the time. They did the best they could with what they had, but the results of their choice was the other part of your setting, the other part of your world having something bad happen or different happen. So denouement, the closure, is an important part of an adventure. This isn't the end of shouldn't be the end of your campaign, although it could be. More the idea of we finished the thing that we were facing. What was going on around us while this was happening? Take a moment and take some time in your session at the end of it to build for that. So your players, like I said, they're engaged in a living, breathing, reactive world. The world acts and reacts to their activities. In some cases, their lack of activities causes things to happen as well. Okay. We talked about the adventure rewards. This is going to be going a little bit old manny here, a little bit grumpy. Pay attention to your economics in your setting before you start giving out this much money. Remember, we've talked about this in a couple other parts of our of this audiobook so far, and I talk about a lot on streams. Economy matters. If you want money to have a value, then you need to have something for that money to be spent on. It has to have worth. If you're giving away 900 platinum pieces out of the pocket of a creature at 17th level, that's a lot of money for them to have in one bad guy. Pay attention to this money. It doesn't have to be gold. Take all of these and turn the gold into silver, and then turn the platinum into gold, and you have a little bit more of a control on your economy. You can add more. It's always easier to add to your campaign than it is to remove. You don't want to suddenly say, hey, y'all, that 300K I gave you, my bad. The world doesn't have that much money. Let me go ahead and, y'all go ahead and knock 50,000 gold pieces off of each of your character sheets. That's going to go over poorly in your games. It's much easier to add money to the game as the campaign and as the adventures are going. So my recommendation here on the random individual treasures and likewise the treasure hoards, cut them back by a magnitude of 10 minimum. Take the gold piece, turn it into a silver piece. Take the platinum pieces, turn them into gold pieces. Take your money here and take the 500, turn it into 50. Take the 330,000, take it into 33. That's still a lot of money. It's a lot of money, man. 330K, I mean, that's the annual tax basis for the city of Waterdeep according to 5e numbers. Well, it's a little bit more. So this one guy's got as much in his hoard as an entire city taxes. I know, apples and oranges, it is what it is. Just, I'm not going to tell you right or wrong, but I'm going to tell you pay attention to the amount of money you give out so that you don't devalue your own rewards. If your players are interested in cash rewards and they have more money than they know what to do with, it stops having value. It stops meaning anything. It becomes literally meaningless at a certain point. So please pay attention to these numbers. Likewise with your magic items. I have to disagree with this one statement here. As a rough benchmark, aim to roll on the random treasure table hoard about once per game session. No, I fully disagree with this. A treasure hoard should be the end game, should be the climatic battle. Unless you're having a climatic battle in the end of chapter every single session, you should not be rolling on this hoard once per session, okay? This should be set up, a treasure hoard should be a set piece that is arranged at a certain point in your campaign, not a given for your players every adventure. Oh shit, we got 20 minutes left here. Let me get you your treasure hoard in. Come on, that sounds very convoluted. Even though your players are going to smile when it first happens, after a while it feels very cheap. It feels trope. A treasure hoard should be used when they are deserved and when they feel natural. There should not be a measure saying how often your players run into it. That's a surefire way to devalue your entire economy. Quest rewards, being paid for quests. Hey, I'm going to give you guys each 50 gold pieces to go check out the tower. I'm going to give you 100 gold pieces to go fetch this book. That's kind of part and parcel and standard. Most published adventures will give you those numbers, but at the same time, that is a good thing that they refer to. If you're not sure what it's worth, look at the random individual treasure table and use that as a guideline. Not necessarily the hoard table. Do you want you to be giving your level 1 players 500 gold pieces each to go solve the goblins? Shit, they could have hired a small army for that money, man. Think those kind of things through. Your average guard gets paid 1 gold piece per day. This poor town couldn't afford to hire a guard, but we can give you 500 gold to fix our problems. These are the kind of things that break immersion, that break your worlds, can break your stories, and ultimately remove the engagement of your players. It's a lot of details to keep track of, but I promise you, if you put the effort in on the front side of understanding how the economy works in a game world, the immersion and the engagement and the idea of reward will be more important to your players on the backside. Monster treasure preferences. This kind of goes without saying. I mean, it's a really short section and it's giving you pretty good advice. Certain creatures are going to covet cash, others give 0 craps. An N-Keg does not collect treasure, but there might be a body sitting at the bottom of its tunnels that still has a pouch and a silver dagger in it, for example. Creatures that aren't intelligent don't typically accumulate treasure. It's left around in their leavings, as it were, whereas other creatures that covet it will have more. So this is a quick and easy little paragraph that tells about, pay attention to the monsters when you're planning treasures. A gelatinous cube isn't going to have a sword collection in its lair. It doesn't know what a sword is. It doesn't collect. It doesn't care. Does that kind of make sense? So, but that's really it for this section. We're almost done with chapter 4. We looked at bring it to an end, how to bring an adventure to a climax, and how to making sure to take a look at the world around after you finish with this big adventure, and then certainly adventure rewards. The treasures, how do we plan out and set up some ideas, some basic ideas for the basic start of giving rewards to your players. This is a starting point for a new DM. Once you start finding your way, once you start getting into world building, you will alter these numbers as necessary. You'll need to make sure that treasure still has value in your world. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Our next section will be Chapter 4, Adventure Examples. As usual, likes, follows, subscribes are always appreciated. Join us over on Twitch. If you want to have a live chat, we're there Tuesdays through Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., just running our mouths about D&D stuff. We'd love to have you there. But I appreciate your continued support here. Thank you so much for your time, and we will be back for more episodes soon.